Hello, I'm Jonasz Rewiński and you're watching Break the Fake. They make them, we break them, and tell you everything you need to know. The leader of the military junta in Niger made a sensational statement claiming that northern Benin had been occupied by Ukrainian and French troops. According to the official, external forces are actively interfering in the security situation in the region. This is not the first such claim, you see. Earlier on, local sources claimed that Ukrainian instructors were secretly training Tuaregs and jihadists at hidden bases in Mauritania and Niger itself, teaching them how to conduct demining operations using drones.
Dispositif de défense, tout le nord Bénin, il n'y a pas un soldat béninois. Il a laissé ça entre les mains des terroristes et des mercenaires français et ukrainiens. C'est ça la réalité des choses. Je vais vous dire certains éléments qui ont conduit à cette situation.
West Africa is currently facing a complex security situation, military coups, jihadist activity, and a struggle for influence between external players, including Russia. After severing ties with France, Niger's new government is actively charting an alternative foreign policy course, while simultaneously seeking explanations for internal problems. Accusing external forces of destabilization is a classic tool of political rhetoric. It allows them to unite the audience around a common enemy and divert attention from internal challenges. Particular attention is drawn to claims of secret bases and the training of militants in the use of drones for demining. Drones have indeed become an integral part of modern conflicts, and demining technologies are critically important for humanitarian security. However, claims about a hidden network of training centers in several countries require substantial evidence. Without it, they risk remaining in the mythical realm of "trust me, bro." If we were to believe all these statements, we'd get the impression that Ukraine is present on every continent at once. Soon we'll find out that it controls the weather over the Sahel and regulates migration flows using Wi-Fi. So who's the global superpower now? The mention of France in the junta's statements has an obvious political context. After the withdrawal of French troops from Niger, anti-French rhetoric became part of the new political identity of the authorities. Therefore, any security issues can be conveniently explained by the hidden presence of the French. The statements about occupied northern Benin and the network of Ukrainian instructors in the Sahel coming from the Niger junta seem more like an element of information warfare than a confirmed fact. In a region where the interests of different states and internal crises intertwine, such rhetoric becomes a tool for political mobilization. The question is, do such accusations help stabilize the situation, or do they just add new layers to an already complex information landscape where reality is increasingly giving way to sensational headlines? Notorious Russian propaganda mouthpiece Vladimir Solovyov has once again made headlines with his sensationalist statements. On air, he thundered that, and I quote, "worthless Danish cities should be destroyed," and the German leadership crushed. Denmark, a country that is difficult to imagine as a global military threat, has also been targeted by verbal attacks. However, in television logic, scale does not matter. The main thing is that you get the narrative through, no matter how little sense it actually makes. It's the Michael Bay school of television reporting. Throw in enough explosions and crazy CGI and hope the audience ignores the glaring plot holes. So, why Denmark and Germany? Well, both countries actively support Ukraine and are members of NATO. Germany is one of the key economies of the European Union, while Denmark is an important player in regional security and Baltic Sea issues. Threats against them are part of a broader information strategy to demonstrate readiness to escalate in response to any steps taken by the West.
Мы не можем победить в войне, если руки будут связаны. Я имею в виду, нужно разрешить наносить удары вглубь территории России. Мы это обсуждаем уже несколько лет.
Это значит, что мы можем снести нахрен уже эти датские никчемные городишки. Но если они считают, что они дадут решение томагавкам, что мешает Орешнику уничтожить начисто крупнейшие европейские города.
References to Tomahawks, American cruise missiles used by NATO countries, and the infamous Russian Oreshnik systems are part of the usual television drama. In Russian talk show studios, geopolitical maps change faster than in real army headquarters, which is not a huge feat anyway, given how slow the progress of the Russian army has been lately. And if television scripts are to be believed, Europe is 5 minutes away from a Fallout-style apocalypse pretty much every week. Vladimir Solovyov's fantasies about cities in Denmark and Germany being laid to waste are part of the aggressive informational rhetoric that has become commonplace on Russian television. So common that if it wasn't there, everyone would be thinking, oh, is something wrong? That also shows you the difference in standards. Imagine anyone romanticizing nuclear Armageddon on any normal Western TV channel without getting fired faster than their imaginary nukes. It's like someone in Russia saw the fictional adverts for the game Nukem in the first RoboCop movie and thought, wow, why not make it real? Although, to be fair, Solovyov is still salty about his confiscated European luxury homes, so I suppose there are a few places he wouldn't try to nuke, even if he had the chance. The word crisis is being floated increasingly often in the Russian media. There is talk of falling incomes, budget problems, declining investments and rising prices. But there is one detail. Vladimir Putin's name is hardly ever mentioned in these discussions. Instead, there is a plethora of familiar arguments: sanctions, pressure from the West, unfriendly European policy, conspiracies by international financiers, temporary difficulties. The blame game goes on. At the same time, the direct link between full-scale war, international isolation and economic consequences remains off the record. It seems that economic problems raised their ugly head out of the blue, just like that, without any specific political decisions, least of all those taken at the Kremlin.
Ну и что? Ну растет. Ну что поделаешь?
Как вы к этому относитесь?
Нормально. Совершенно нормально.
А почему? Это же, наверное, плохо.
Ну, все растет. Инфляция, проблемы, трудности. Мы должны все понимать, что происходит.
В интернете паника по поводу того, что сейчас коммуналка будет стоить 30 тысяч, но, по-моему, это пока что так, приколы.
Вообще непонятно. Откуда они эти цены берут?
Да, поднялись очень-очень.
А насколько?
Ну, не знаю, какой процент. Если отопление было 3, стало 5.
Вы заметили рост цен на жилищно-коммунальные услуги?
А кто их не заметит? Слепой только.
А сильно выросли цены?
Сильно.
Well, the paradox lies in the fact that economic difficulties are acknowledged, but their political origins are not. It is reminiscent of a situation where a driver crashes into a wall, gets out of the car, looks at the damaged bumper and says, with a serious expression, "I wonder where that crack came from." People can argue for hours about global oil markets, but fail to ask a simple question. Do military spending and international isolation affect the state of the economy? Another characteristic feature is the division of reality into economics and politics. The former is discussed as a technical problem. The latter, however, is still an area where criticism is considered, inappropriate, in poor taste, and very, very ill-advised. As a result, a peculiar information construct is formed. There are difficulties, but no one is responsible for them. The war continues, but its consequences for the economy seem to be unrelated to the decisions of the leadership. Contemporary Russian discourse demonstrates a delicate balance, acknowledging problems without naming their sources. Economic difficulties can be discussed, external pressure can be criticized, but questions of responsibility and the moral cost of the war against Ukraine remain virtually taboo. As for those who delve a bit too deep into the grim inner workings of the Kremlin and then become a bit too vocal about this, well, apparently Putin's crew keeps an aquarium full of exotic poison dart frogs somewhere just for the occasion. The message obviously being, don't even think about it. And with this, we conclude this edition of Break the Fake. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news, updates, and commentary.